My name is Rahul. I work in University of Sheffield in nuclear MRC, but I love to do research on another thing, and that's baking. Flour, sugar, some butter and some eggs. These are the basic building blocks of all these three bakes. But what makes them different is the quantity or the proportion you use to make them. And you use some added ingredients to put the air into it. I'm going to make a bread dough for something like a pizza. So I'm going to start with 250 grams of flour, 4 grams of salt, a teaspoon of yeast, 15 milliliter of oil, and then it goes with 150 ml of water. And you see, the more you work on it, the more you get this really lovely glutinous structure. So gluten is basically a type of protein. It's a combination of two types of protein, and they're all coiled up in the dry flour. As soon as you start water into it, they started to uncoil. And as they uncoil, they start attaching with each other and then create a long chain of gluten molecules. Now this dough is beautifully kneaded, as you can see, and I'm just going to prove it in a container. Our bread doughs have proven beautifully. You can see them, how much they have risen. This is all gluten. Did you see how stretchy the dough is? So divide it into half, and I'm just going to let it rest and prove again for another 20 minutes before I bake them. The breads are now nicely and beautifully risen. You can see the shine on it. I'm going to bake it for about 15 minutes. So now I'm going to make a Victoria sponge, and this is the first cake I made when I first started baking about in 2016. All the rising comes from baking powder. So there are 4 eggs here. It weighs about 260 grams. So I'm going to use 260 grams of self-raising flour, 260 grams of caster sugar, 260 grams of baking spread. There's no glamorous way of doing it. And I'm going to crack in 4 eggs. And now I'm going to put a teaspoon of baking powder in it. I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. I have a reputation of making everything covered with flour and sugars. Oh no, I didn't. I'm going to divide the mixture and I'm going to bake it for about 25 minutes. Now let's talk about the science of baking powder and why the cakes rise. I mean, if you look at the cupcakes, then you can see all these little tiny air bubbles. Now, it all comes basically from the baking powder. It is a mixture of bicarbonate of soda, which is this one, and some form of dried acid like cream of tartar. I'm going to mix about a tablespoon of bicarbonate of soda. Actually, you know what? I wanted a big reaction. So this is alkali now. And the other container, I'm going to put some acid, which is in this case vinegar. And let's see when you put them two together, what happens. This is what happened. A lot of carbon dioxide is forming. All these bubbles are carbon dioxide. That's the exact reaction that's happening all the time in the baking powder as soon as it gets the heat. And that's what is creating all these little air bubbles. So I'm going to make a biscuit. For that I need about 150 grams of butter, 100 grams of sugar. And then you add 1 egg. You probably realize I quite like vanilla flavoring. So I'm going to add about 275 grams of plain flour. I was thinking to wing it, but I feel like that would be a bit too risky. I'm going to roll both of these halves, put it in the fridge for about half an hour, and we're going to bake it for about 9 to 10 minutes. If you think about the bread dough and how elastic it is, if you look at the biscuit dough, there is no elasticity in it. But it has the same ingredients apart from the yeast. But what you do in the bread dough, you knead it, so you develop the gluten. So today we made some cakes, some bread and some biscuits, and all of them consisting of very similar ingredients. They're consisting of flour, butter, eggs and sugar. But you see, depending on how you use in different proportion, they have completely different texture. So if you look at the biscuits, they're nice and crunchy, how the biscuit should be. If you break it, you can hear the sound. Now comes the bread. What we do in the bread is we use yeast to create lots of carbon dioxide. And then it kind of stretches the gluten full with all these little holes, which is like nice and spongy. If you press it, it's just nice and squidgy and it doesn't bounce back. Here, the air is coming from yeast, which creates lots of carbon dioxide in it. And now for the showstopper, obviously the cake. And if you look into the structure, little tiny air bubbles around, and in this case it's coming from baking powder. I think baking is a perfect combination of different science subjects. It can be a really good chemistry experiment because think about the way acid and alkali reacts and create lots of carbon dioxide. That's what happened inside a cake. Think about Making bread is a biology experiment where yeast is basically nothing but a fungus that creates lots of carbon dioxide. Or think about it as a physics experiment. It just follows Charles's law. It creates steam and the steam expands when you apply the heat in it. So baking is a perfect way to do some science. Go treat yourself with some lovely baked goods and learn more about science. I'm not going to lick the bowl today, but if you have kids or flatmates who really love sweet things, feel free not to wash it and give it to them to have a lick around. It's actually quite delicious.